I'm looking forward to hearing all about this, Howard. Before I turn it over to you, I want to see if I can do a screen share and kind of give a little bit of a background and update. I don't know if people on the call or people that may see this later know that we have a history. You and I and Barb, we go way back. And let me see if I can share my screen. Share, and I'm gonna try to bring up some stuff now. If people want this document here, I will try to get it to you. So let me know. But I typed this up so it kind of helped me navigate what we're doing here. Let's see this Google Drive folder. That takes, you click that link and it takes you to a folder that I put on here that's got some stuff that's relevant to Howard.
What's the website?
It's my Google Drive. So you have to get a link from me to be able to get into it. But there's that, and there's other family in that folder that have photos and stuff that I've been sent. So we all, as a family, we've talked about this photo. There may be some people that watch the recording later that haven't seen it. So as you remember, this is Howard, and all the rest of us. That's me. I have to point that out. And let's see.
Now,
oh
dear.
Who is that guy? That's the handsome version of young Howard there. So we were all pretty once.
It's like 80 pounds ago.
And this is a scene. Howard ended up in the pipeline, and this is a Alyeska control center with some control panels that I put in the picture here. Howard was getting training on how to operate the man panel. He couldn't quite figure out the woman panel yet. He needed more supervision on that. Too many knobs.
Like my cousins.
Let's see now. There was, where did that go? How did I, oh, okay, must go there. I wanted to point out here that there is this photo here. Howard, do you want to say something about the availability of this for the family?
Well, you have this on your website, right? And it's like it's huge. It's what did we say? 13.8 megapixels, something like that.
Yeah, it's very high resolution.
So that's available to the family on your website. And if you're in Tulsa, so I got this from my Aunt Annie, and I took it to Apertures, I think it's called, on Tulsa, and they did a high res photo of it. And they have this picture in Tulsa with my name on it. And I told them any EchoHawk comes in and wants a photo of it, then I think it's about $35 for like a museum quality type picture that they'll make. But again, on that on Lance's site, with the same pictures there in this high res solution. So the information I had, this is 1908. I see Roger last time said it was 1907, so I don't know. Roger knows more about it. But I also, my aunt had a list of the names of the people, and I never validated anything, but maybe Roger can or somebody. But there's a list that I know of that I was given. So, and it's really cool because, see number 10 there, that's my mom's grandpa. And as we know, he was one of the chiefs of the tribe at that time. And so it's an amazing picture. You see my my mom's grandpa in that photo. He's got his arm on a guy next to him, real relaxed. So that's kind of a neat picture. Anyway, that's all I know about that.
Is this the guy you're talking about?
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
10? 1,
Yeah,
2,
okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's him with as we look at the photo, he's just in between the two headdresses, and he's got one feather.
Oh, this guy here.
That's my mom's grandfather. And his photo, actually his painting, is in the Pawnee, Oklahoma First National Bank.
The bank. Oh, I've seen that. That's him. Uncle Brumman painted that, right?
Uncle Brumman painted it. Yep.
Okay.
Apparently, he was a tightrope walker in the Pawnee Bill. What's he call that? Pawnee Bill Wild West show.
The wild, yeah.
And he was a bank guard, which is why the bank, I guess, they commissioned Uncle Brumman to make that painting. So there it is.
Okay. Well, I think it's interesting, this painting, and maybe some people might want it. There's of this list, there's probably family members that I'm not quite tuned into. I notice Charlie, or Knife Chief, is on here, and I believe this is him in the cowboy hat. And I wanted to say something about him for a second here. Howard, you may remember this. I think Uncle Brumman, Uncle Hobe,
I need that.
worked on this. So this is in that file folder of yours. So I'll help you find that if you want it. But some years back, Howard got this to I don't know, did you take it to Kinko's or something? Because this is a big giant piece of paper. Didn't you get this Xeroxed and distributed to some of the folks in the family, Howard?
Did I do that? It's fuzzy. It seemed like something that Roger would do.
Well, it could be, but I have been attributing it to you all these years. So
I'll take it then.
You might as well take some credit for it here. It's hand drawn, but this all came out of Uncle Hobe's mind, as I understand it, and whoever helped him get it written down was, and maybe Roger, you know some history about this, but I want to show you around just for a second on here. So here's EchoHawk, and these lines go to wives that he's married. So he was married to Carrie West. And so this shows where Uncle Leo comes in. So EchoHawk with Carrie West, Uncle Leo here. So EchoHawk with Churix had these kids on this line. So there's Grandpa Elmer, George. This Walter EchoHawk didn't survive infancy, but these are the branches, including Elmer over here, of the family. And I wanted to point out Alice EchoHawk, who married different ones, and the family tree gets a little kind of complicated for me. But she married, I forget which husband it was in order, but this that's hard to read right here says is Jasper Hadley, and so that would be Aunt Eunice's folks, Alice and Jasper Hadley. So this is where the Wildcats all come in. And over here, she married Charles Knife Chief. And so this is where the Knife Chiefs come in. And Roger, I don't know if you know or not, is this the Charlie Knife Chief that is on that family chart?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So over here is great grandpa EchoHawk. And on the family Facebook, I cropped this out. I had a bad, kind of a weak copy of this, a low resolution copy, but that's what the image is on the EchoHawk family Facebook page. Just kind of showing people around a little bit what the connections are. Let me see if I can find that.
Aren't we related to Baptiste Bahale also?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Isn't that him on the far left?
Well, was he on that list?
No, it's not him.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I figured he would have passed by then.
On the far left, the first individual in the photo is James Murray, James R. Murray Skeety.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some way back stuff. Here's some more way back stuff. I don't know if this will play right since it's going to come off of the internet and then go back on. So this,
wow,
that's Roger. That's a car that my dad bought.
Is this on your webpage?
Yeah, and
Great.
I'll send a link out to this, but that's Uncle Hobe and Mom, and they're out west walking around. This is a short little video. There's Deb and Walter and Lance, I think. There's always been dogs out west. So I'm going to kind of skip through here a little bit. I don't know who these men are. I showed this to Barb's mom one time and said, she wanted to know about it and said, oh, that's just how they used to go to town.
She said, bar.
With my pretty mom. One reason I'm showing this is I wanted to show everybody Uncle Howard's dad. I think that'll come up here. So these, and maybe some of you have seen this video clip. I put it up some time back, but Bobby, there's Uncle Ugg, my dad next to him. Grandpa George. Grandpa George is there with all these boys. I don't know where. So there's Uncle Hobe, and then on the end here, this tough guy, Uncle Whitty, Howard's dad. Have you seen this before, Howard?
No. Thank you.
That's my dad doing some stuff. I want to show a real, right after this part, Howard, watch real close and tell me who these people are coming up. I'm not sure how long that part goes.
I know who that is.
There. Now I'm thinking that's Aunt Chris, Uncle Whitty, and your sisters, but am I wrong?
Can you go back again?
It's real brief. I wish there was more footage of this, but maybe it's not. But I just wondered all these years if that was them. Any guesses there?
I couldn't tell you for sure.
Well, I've kind of thought that was Uncle Whitty taking off with his family, but maybe it's not.
I think that back is too broad for my dad.
So you must have got your broad shoulders from somebody else, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
And this is Miffy Shanatona. Let's see. How do I stop this? I don't know how to get out of. So there was one other clip I wanted to show, and let me see if I can find out how to get to it now. I was going to practice this, but I had a last minute errand to run, and I can't get rid of this bar up here. There. And let me see if there's another way. Okay, so Howard, you used to take home movies. Even when we were young, I remember you had an interest in shooting some video stuff. You saved some of those old spools and they got damaged in storage, but what got salvaged is on this video clip here.
Great.
So this shows a young Howard. Maybe you could narrate this a little bit for us, Howard. What was going on in your life at that point?
I don't know. I look like I'm in the woods.
My understanding is you were surveying in Alaska.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm surveying. Oh, look at that. It's horrible.
That's me and I think
I spend my marijuana days.
that's the water damage of the shed it was in. I'm going to jump around in here a little bit.
My goodness.
Now, see, this is the time frame where Howard and I went off to Stillwater in 1969. We were starting up our college years, and this is the time frame that Barb and I met. And so Howard, Lance, and Barb, and Bryce was in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as Barb getting acquainted with the family, she got a big dose of some EchoHawk cousins.
Poor Barb.
Right off the bat.
It was a lot of fun.
So let me see if I can find, there's some, now this is you come by your clothes horse, honestly. My dad was a super clothes horse, so he might have even bought you that tie.
Yeah, he may have.
Did you get that at Zorba's in Stillwater?
I may have. That was a while ago.
So this is in front of the dorm where Barb and I met.
Wow.
College roommate, Dennis Dunham.
Yes.
So here's Barb. We're walking out the back door, Bennett Hall, and that's Bryce.
Hasn't changed a bit. Barb, what were you thinking?
My pretty wife. So now we've walked across the street.
That was Bryce. I saw Bryce.
That was Bryce, yeah.
Yeah.
That's me there. We walked
goodness.
across the street to the backyard of a house. That's where Bryce was living. He and some other roommates. And I'm going to let it play for a second here.
Is that the rabbit he blew away?
Yeah, I had to kill a rabbit in the middle of the night because it had gotten hurt by a dog.
Do you use Bryce's 10 gauge?
I used a 10 gauge shotgun in the neighborhood. It dug a big hole.
His goose gun.
So Bryce is on the right there. We all knew and loved Bryce. He left too soon. It's very sad. There he is.
Mm-hmm. How come
Here's
Barb
Howard
didn't
getting
get
a
old?
start in life there. Jump start in life. And I'm not sure. Oh, there's Harold. So this included going back up to Pawnee and Hilaire, and I'm not sure who this is, but I doubt that Harold and Hilaire have seen this, or if they have seen it recently. So there's the, let's see now, how do I get out of here? I'm going to unshare my screen, Howard. Let's see, how do you stop share? Uh-oh. I started something here that I have to kill there. All right, well, so there's my introduction, and we've got some new people that have showed up. We've got, looks like Pete is on here, and Kelly, welcome to the call. And do you guys want to have a quick check-in before we get started, or do you want to wait till Howard's done talking?
Oh, I'll wait till Howard's done. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Pete? You want to wait for a second? Yeah, well, we can go ahead. Howard, I have thought of this talk in this way, dividing your life in two parts: pre-Alyeska pipeline, some of which I've just shown, and Alyeska pipeline, and then post-Alyeska pipeline. I wanted to highlight, Howard, that you had a big career, 40, how many years? 40 something years up there?
44.74.
Yeah. So, and that's not the entire time that you were up in Alaska. I remember before you even did that part of being up in Alaska, that you were back and forth doing surveying. I think I've mentioned on the family calls that we knew that you had a lot of money, because when you'd come back into town from Alaska, it was like we'd all pizza up over it. Go down to Bill's and get pizza and carry on. So Howard, I'd like you to go ahead and share whatever it is that you want to share about your life, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. I just saw this before we get started. I'm going to read this from the Chapmans. You know, the Chapmans and EchoHawks are very, very close. This is Henry Chapman, and I'm just going to read this. Hello, Noah. I want to say something. And I heard this growing up. I heard this, not from Henry Chapman, I don't think, but I heard this at the fairgrounds at dances. So he would say, this is a South Bend, and Roger helped me out when I goof up on this. You two old men, kuduhos over there, you two chiefs who are taking care of us, I want to say something. The God of the universe, Tarawahat, put us here. The big land, the earth that we're on, everything the way it's supposed to be. We worship the God of heavens, the universe, everything. He made us to worship him. Then he gave us this earth, this ground. He put us all the roots, grass, and trees, and everything here. He did that for us. He put that in the earth for us, our use. Be thankful for what he did for us and praise the Lord. Atias. He gave us chiefs to take care of us and to talk to us. Be glad you're here to advise the people and guide them. There's no one else. Praise your Father in heaven. Be glad that you're here to guide the people. The chiefs were put here by God Almighty. Be glad that God put them there. You chiefs are supposed to guide the people. Be glad that you got these things to tell the people. The end. That was, I think Carol Chapman posted that, and then also another Chapman girl I never met, Kimberly, somebody. Anyway, so hello, family. Noah and Lance, I'm so happy you're doing this. And I told somebody the other day, this is like a campfire. You know, I can just imagine us sitting around the campfire at the powwow and just visiting and talking. And it's a really good thing. So thank you for doing this. So start at the beginning. Little family history. You know, Uncle Crip started the surveying business. And my dad, right after he got married, went to Farmington and worked for his brother, Uncle Crip, learned the trade. And lo and behold, I was born there in Farmington, Mexico, August 3rd, 51. My Uncle Elmo, who just passed in March, told me this, that he was there at my grandma Morgan's house in Pawnee. Grandma Bill and Mamie Morgan, my mom's parents, in 1953, August 3rd, not just 51. He was there, and apparently my dad called his mother-in-law, my grandma, Mamie Morgan, and she was all excited. She hung up the phone and said, Chris had the baby. Chris had the baby. And my grandpa Bill said, well, it was a boy or girl? I don't know, but she had a baby. So they drove out there, Pawnee. And back in them days, you know, must have been like going to Europe or something. So, so anyway, that's me. I'm the oldest of five siblings. And again, I just read this thing about our the Chapmans are relations in South Bend. So that's how I grew up. I remember my dad, when we were little kids, reading Genesis to us in the beginning. And Daddy and all those guys, and Roger can tell us more about that, you know, were all brought, I think probably because of Grandma Toots' influence, they were all believed. And made sure that we all went to church. We went to the Baptist church there in Winfield, Kansas. So that's the beginning of my life with my dad, Whitty, Chris. The one thing that really has stood out to me and thinking about this visit tonight is family. Family. When I grew up, my dad and his brothers were so tight, you could not go to their city, Oklahoma City, without seeing Uncle Ugg. Couldn't go to Tulsa without seeing the rest of the gang, Uncle Bromett and Uncle Del Rey and Uncle Bruce. And I spent summers at Uncle Bruce's house with Jay. And like, as you said before, you know, us four cousins, we grew up together. Bryce, I'm the youngest, of course, and Jay and Bryce and Lance and myself, me being the baby. So we've really had an amazing, wonderful, formative years growing up tight as cousins, as we said. And we got that from our parents, sharing, hanging out, going places, doing things together, hunting, fishing, getting in trouble, drinking, carrying on. Family, just plain wonderful family. So that's how we grew up. And I remember my dad when somebody would show up, I remember one time, I think the Bahales showed up there in Kansas. And I've seen my dad do this many times. And somebody would show up and he'd just go outside barefoot on rocks and gravel and stuff, you know, and greet everybody. And he was just, family was so amazing. So then, so Helen, Holly, Hilaire, and Harold. Harold had a twin, maybe not everybody knows that, and didn't make it. So we came to Pawnee, and then we went to Winfield, and Dad was working in all of our uncles, Uncle Bunky, Uncle Brummet, all those, Uncle Crip, all those guys got educated and went out in the workforce. and left us an amazing heritage. Excuse me. Excuse me. So we spent time in Winfield, Kansas, and then we went out to Western Kansas for a while, a place called Greensburg, and then we came out to Pawnee. Then we got to claim. What was that, 73, 75? I forget. And my dad built a house in Yale on my mom's dad's property. Apparently he got some of that property enough to build that house out there. I went to Quay, little bitty country school. 8 people in my 8th grade. 8.
Were you in the top of your class?
I was in the top 10% of the bottom quarter. So I did fine, made it. And
I remember specifically the claim was paid in 1964 because I was a junior in college.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was quite a year. So so we went to Quay, and then I've got very good friends in Quay, still have. Then back in the day, I used to drink. It's hard to believe, but so went 8th grade, 10th, 9th, 10th, 11, half of 11. I'd been drinking. I woke up over by Cushing someplace in some field, not know where I was at. I drove home, 7 in the morning. My mother was so mad. Oh my goodness. I pulled up about 7 in the morning, and she said, "That's it. You're done with Quay." So I went to Stillwater. So I ended up graduating there in Stillwater. And then I met my good friend Roger Chisholm from Winfield, and Jay and I were going to go to the Grand Tetons. We wanted to go to Grand Tetons, and so I had my dad had this station wagon he loaned us, and we loaded it up. And we took off. We went to Winfield first. Saw my old buddy Roger Chisholm. He talked us into going to Mexico. So we went to Mexico instead, and lost all our money. I had to hawk this. I sold this really nice 22 I had outside Oklahoma City, so we had enough gas to get home. Pawnee. So when I saw Jay later I said, "Well, we should go try that again." And he was thinking about it, but then he passed. So that was my junior year. Then after I graduated high school in '69, my buddy Roger Chisholm, who I met, like I just told you the story, he wanted to go to Seattle and stay at his auntie's. So I remember this moment. This lot of it's blurry, and a lot I don't remember now, but I remember some moments highlighted. And I remember this: my dad, we were in Stillwater, and my dad said, I asked my dad if I go with Roger and go to Seattle, and he was on the floor, on his back, which he's prone to do a lot, And I remember his chest. He had a pretty good sized chest because even though he smoked, he walked a lot, surveying. He took a deep breath, and my mom was sitting over there. I said, can I go with Roger to Seattle? 17. And he had a deep breath, and he said, "Yeah, yes, you can go." So we took off. They got me enough money to buy a plane, my first plane ride to Wichita to Seattle. And in Seattle, let me back up a minute. Howie, as everybody knows, I have 2 sons and 5 daughters. And I'm very famous. I'm probably the most famous EchoHawk because people say, "Hey, you know Lance, you know John, you know Larry, you know Colleen." And I say, "Yeah, I know these guys." So anyway, so we're in Seattle, and I was 17, and I couldn't lie. Daddy kind of beat that out of me. So in Seattle, you had to have a work permit. You had to be 18 to get this work permit. And I was 17. So I couldn't find work. And I was in West Seattle. I had to catch 2 buses, go downtown Seattle. I'm from Pawnee. And Seattle was Purple Haze, Summer of Love. I didn't card anybody. It was amazing for a guy like me. So I'm going, the only thing I could find to do was to be a vacuum cleaner salesman. Answer this ad, 4 classes, and then you get your vacuum. And so I was going to my 3rd class, and I was running. I went right downtown Seattle, like on First Avenue, and then up Pine about to 9 blocks to up the hill, up the mountain side of the mountain, to this basement place to learn how to sell vacuums. And my mom told me, your Uncle Teeter, my mom's little brother, he had Uncle Teeter and Uncle Elmo, or Tom now, as he called later on, is there. Uncle Teeter's there someplace. We don't know where. So I'm running up late for my class about 6th Street. There is Uncle Teeter, bigger than life, standing on the street corner. So we recognized each other, and he took us under his wing. We became Teamster helpers, $4.35 an hour, 1969. They would pay cash on line haul guys that were coming across the country. Hard work. Oh my goodness. Hide of beds, pianos, Seattle, up flights of stairs. I weighed 135 pounds right out of high school. Not an ounce of fat on me. So anyway, so he got us those jobs, and we're making money, and they paid every day. You know, at the end of the day, they paid you. So we moved out. We moved downtown to some dump hotel downtown, but we were living the dream. You know, weren't green carded. We're making money, and summer haze, summer of love. It was really great. So then Uncle Teeter said, I want to go to Alaska. And I said, we'll follow you anywhere, Uncle. You're a good luck charm. So June 20th, solstice, we're in Fairbanks. We had $35 between the 3 of us. So then I went ahead and I lied about my age. I said, well, I'm 4,000 miles or so from Pawnee. And I went to work for the city of Fairbanks because, you know, Daddy had taught me the trade of surveying. So I was really a wonderful gift he gave me. I was out of high school and I had a trade. So I went to work for the city of Fairbanks. I did that. Oh, then that's when I bought, since we're going to history, that's when I bought Rogers 1957 MGA. Beautiful. And speaking about white knuckle driving, I got to put in the time. One of my favorite cousins, we went and visited his mom, favorite aunt. I'm not going to mention their names, but we went to Missouri. And coming back, we're both in college. And my steering wheel came off. Cousin was driving, and it came off, and he had it in his hand. Had the steering wheel in his hand. We're driving, and I think it's this time of year. I think it was December or January, winter, cold, snow, lots of snow, unusual. Coming back, I'm asleep, and somebody's cat, I won't mention any names, but the name was Ravenous, was with us. And this cousin woke me up. It's about 1, 2 in the morning, I don't know, dark. Woke me up and says, look. And he has a steering wheel and he goes, look. And we're driving. We're going 50, 67 miles an hour. I don't know how fast we're going down main road into Tulsa. The only thing about that car at that moment was it pulled to the right when you hit the brakes a little bit. So we started going off on the edge. I hollered at my cousin to put the steering wheel back on. And I don't think you ever did got it back on. Maybe you did, but we ended up in the ditch. It was like a toboggan run. We hit the snow, and fortunately, it was perfect. It was flat, and we hit all that snow, come up over top on the sides, and we couldn't open up the door. And somebody's cat got so scared it defecated right behind me. Not that much. I'll never forget. That beats your white knuckle story. Okay, moving on. So I started working in the city of Fairbanks. Wonderful summers in Seattle, Anchorage, Fairbanks, excuse me, were so nice. 24-hour daylight, some daylight, and really nice. So I did that 69. The group that I was working with, surveyors, some of them went to work on a early pipeline road job. And so the next year, 1970, I did the same thing. And I ended up going, working for Michael Baker Jr. And so I went to work in way up north, above the Arctic Circle, about 100 miles from the Arctic Circle, Arctic Ocean. Flew in there. And I was so young and so dumb and so naive that I flew in a place called Sagwan. I had a helicopter there for me to pick me up, take me to Happy Valley. I got in the helicopter and I'm all strapped in and looking around. And then the pilot comes over and he said, "Oh, are you going to fly?" Pilots on the helicopter sitting on the right side, fixed wing pilot sitting on the left side. So I was sitting on the right side. I said, "No, I guess I'll let you fly." So had an amazing time. I saw so much game, so much wild country, and it was crazy. Of course, there was no internet and no phones. They flew in a movie every Friday night, but there was no phone system. There was no. I wrote a lot of letters. I wrote to Jay in Vietnam, and as we were brought up as family, I was able to send him a little bit of money because Debbie, remember Debbie, his first wife, was being very smart and very frugal and taking his checks and saving them, but he didn't have any poker money, so I was able to help him out a little bit that way. I miss Jay. So I worked that season up until almost November. And when I came back to Oklahoma State that next semester, I'm going, because that kind of work is remote, you're totally cut off, isolated. It's 12-hour days. And the regular laws kick in. Anything over 40 hours is overtime. And so I was making really good money for a kid. When I got back to Oklahoma State, I was making more money than guys I worked for, had owned their own business. I was making more money than the professors. And I'm going, why am I in chemistry at 8 o'clock in the morning? This doesn't make any sense. So I only stuck with the surveying and the math classes. I was fortunately enough to, after I went to work for the Alyeska full-time, like Lance was saying, as a technician for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. By the way, I was hoping I was going to beat John's record, but he's untouchable as far as longevity on the same job. I was able to beat Uncle Jimmy, but John's way ahead of us. So anyway, I started doing that, and man, it was just amazing, the country. And I swam every day, freezing cold streams. I was in tip-top shape, walking, seeing all those animals and stuff, and hanging out with really good guys, and flew in helicopters every day to work because there was no roads. It was just wild wilderness. Really had an amazing time, learned a lot. So then on 73, I married Yvonne, and amazing mom, gave us 7 kids. And as you know, my kids are all of our kids are above average, and all the EchoHawk kids are above average. One of the things I really attributed to their success in life is my oldest boy, Ted, he was 8. By the way, he met John in an elevator one time and introduced themselves. But Ted, in the 8th grade, came home with a 3rd grade reading level. So I took the TV and I picked it up when I got that piece of paper. He told me that. And I took it out to the garbage and I left. We didn't have a TV for 14 years. And so all my kids are great readers, voracious readers, very successful in what they're doing. I'm very proud. So let's see. So I went to work for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline in 1977. I helped build it. I was surveying again on pipelines by my career. I was surveying in 70, 71, 72. 73, I took a job in Fairbanks surveying on this dam project. And 74, I went back to work. I was going to school. 75. By the way, I guess most everybody in our family knows that when my mom passed in 74, that was a tough time. 73, my dad passed that summer. Poor Helen and Holly had to handle everything. And then 74, my mom passed. And so I took Hilaire. Picked Hilaire up in Seattle on the way back to Alaska. And we took her with us. Yvonne was an amazing lady to handle all this influx of family that she didn't know. when she in 74, when we went to my grandma's house, Grandma Morgan, she came into the room and it was full of Indians, and then elders and everybody. And then my grandma Morgan, Yvonne came up to her and introduced herself. And Grandma Morgan gave her bull eyes. She looked at her from top to bottom, scanned her coming top to bottom, said, "Ee, I thought you was Eskimo." I said, "No, sorry." "Ee, I thought you was taller." Poor Yvonne had 2 strikes. So yeah, we took Hilaire, and then after about maybe a year, I forget when, we got Harold too. So Harold came up to Fairbanks, and Harold's still in Fairbanks and doing real well. Harold's got a house in Oklahoma City that his daughter's Deetra uses, and he's in Fairbanks working. So then I went to school in Fairbanks, University of Fairbanks, and took some surveying classes. And then worked on that pipeline for 44 years on amazing, wonderful adventure, lots of training, lots of excitement, lots of drama. I put firewater on a burning building and with a fatality inside. I've been to fire schools, industrial fire schools. As a fireman, I was able to get trained and qualified as a fire technician. So I can work in Alaska, you got to get a license from the state of Alaska to work on fire panels and sprinkler systems and special hazards. Special hazards is what they use in libraries and computer rooms, stuff like that. So I was able to get those credentials along with refrigeration, technical stuff, refrigeration card, so I could work on refrigeration units. In Alaska, where I was working up north in the permafrost area, they have to refrigerate any building. They have to, because of the heat, it'll sink, it'll melt and it'll sink. So there's big, giant industrial refrigeration units. We use gas turbines to pump the oil, 18,600 horsepower Rolls-Royce jet engines we were using. We've seen them blow up many times, make a big boom when they go. So I spent a lot of time operating them, running them, and I'm hard of hearing now. Been around that jet engine work. In fact, I might, such as family, I may be trying to get a case for my hearing loss over the years. So we'll see about that. But I don't know. I worked on that pipeline. I know quite a bit about it. I know all the bodies are buried. One thing that really been proud about in my career is I've been outspoken because I've seen what management can do, killing people and blowing up stuff. And so I've been outspoken in safety, and I've been written up. One time we had H2S, hydrogen sulfide, which is super deadly, pretty common. Even in Oklahoma, with anywhere you have a dead leg of water, it's sulfide reducing bacteria in the oil, and if the oil is stationary and it drops out, and then these bugs will eat the steel. So anyway, they're very deadly, like 2 breaths and you're dead. And so hydrogen sulfide is such a deadly thing because when you see your friend go down, your natural reaction is you're going to go help them. You're going to take a deep breath and help them get out of there. Well, then you go down. Usually there's a pile of bodies with H2S. So anyway, in one of our fields, Endicott field, we had a high amount of H2S, and what do we call the environment was such that the lab tech who tested this and knew it was that much and that deadly told me in passing in a hallway, Howard, that's 50 parts per million H2S in the Endicott. I said, really? Because I think it's like two parts per million is all you're supposed to be able to go in without breathing apparatus. So anyway, I brought that up, and I yelled at them actually, and they wrote me up for yelling at them in a safety meeting. I said, it's a badge of honor. You're going to write me up for yelling for H2S, high H2S readings, and you wrote me up because I yelled at you. I didn't cuss. I don't want to go to a funeral is what I said. So anyway, I've been able to be outspoken, and I've had laser dots all over me because I've been outspoken, but I've been trained enough. Of course, we got enough lawyers in the family to know that when it comes to safety and OSHA, you're untouchable. I went to a supervisor school for one time for a week, and they kept saying this over and over again, that if the lawyers and the executives will come to this class of guys who I wasn't really want to be. I was a lead tech at that time, and I didn't want to be a supervisor, but it was free training, and I was able to take all the kids to Fairbanks and hotel, and so we went. But they kept saying over and over again, it's an uneven playing field. And I'll say this to our young people in our family or in the workforce. What they meant when they told us this was that if a worker person, non-exempt person who's underneath the hour and wage laws of that state, if a person takes anything to the court system, harassment, intimidation, retaliation, discrimination, hurt, or safety, and we're judged by our peers. We're judged by housewives and farmers, whatever, instead of management, instead of HR, instead of Darth Vader guys and management. They said that it's an uneven playing field because management always loses if anybody takes anything to the court system for safety or harassment, intimidation, retaliation, or discrimination. It's a done deal. So all of our young people are in the workforce. My advice is to have a notebook and write down anything that you see that, you know, is something that bothers you, something that's questionable. So that's one thing I've been proud of. I mean, I'm being outspoken, and we got enough lawyers in the family that we're kind of untouchable. So that was been a good thing. So I don't know. I just have just been an amazing career, and like I said, I've got Vaughn gave us 7 amazing kids. So I retired. The automation came, and I was in operations, which is like a power plant operator. I got trained in the maintenance and the electrical and instrument work, and I did that. I was able to really. I had an 800-mile office. I had a truck, I had tools. I was driving up and down 800 miles over 3 mountain ranges, and had an amazing life, flying in helicopters and working on stuff, and meeting amazing people. I've really met some amazing. I met Navy SEALs. I met F-4 jet pilots. Just a top tier strata of workforce guys. You know, a lot of military and amazing, wonderful career. Really been great. So, but they automated, and so I could have stayed on. I could have played my maintenance card, but I'm sleeping until noon now. I've been up at 4:30 every morning for 44.74 years. So it's been pretty nice. And so right now I'm outside Oklahoma City in a place called Okarshi and Temporary. I'm probably going to buy a house in this area someplace. And then my future plan is I want to go back to Alaska. I'm going back. Actually, I have a plane ticket for March 28th. I return June 28th, so I can go to the powwow 4th of July. But so I hope to go surveying. I am licensed in Alaska, so I need to get that active. But this first summer, I think I'm just going to work for maybe the city of Anchorage, or work out of Union Hall or something like that. I want to keep moving, keep busy. I feel good. I do have my only health problem is I have something going on with my left foot. I had torn ligaments in my left foot there for a little while. And I think that might have something to do with it, but I'm getting that checked on the 26th. But other than that, my health is okay. A little high blood pressure, but I'm not diabetic, and I feel good. I want to go hunting and fishing and surveying and travel around, visit people. I want to go to Anadarko here in maybe the next few days and see Nito. And I want to go up to see Sherry. So I'm in transition. So I lost Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm on Medicare A and B, trying to figure that out. And dealing with Indian health clinics, just so I forgot what it was like. Call, leave a message, no return, call, leave a message, no return. I have to go there. You have to drive over to the place, show up, and see what you can get done. So that's it, I guess. Anything else?
Thank you, Howard. Are you open for a couple of questions?
Of course.
I have a question to ask you. Now, can you just run down the list of names of your kids so we can all get that straight?
Sure.
And start with
Ted.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Ted was 8 years old when I married Yvonne, and so he works. He puts in cathodic protection systems. He's working out of around Idaho, northwest part of town, this country. He drills wells and then hookups rectifiers, and he does quite well doing that. He has a little girl that she was 2 when she married his mom. That girl now is 18 or 17. Goodness gracious. And then there's Colleen. She's born in 76.
She was born on my birthday.
Ah, that's why she's been so successful. Good job. And then Lael. And then, of course, Colleen's married to Matt, and they have 2 kids. And Lael is married to Link, and she's the doting auntie, and lives in Washington, D.C. And then Abigail, you just saw, she's got two boys. And her oldest boy was able to come to just so many funerals we had last year. I forget which one he came down for. I think it might have been Jerry's. And then Elizabeth. Elizabeth is right now currently in New Zealand with her husband Ed, whose dad just passed. So they're down there helping transition his mom. They have their 3 daughters. Number 2 daughter is quite the horseman. And I was told, I didn't know this, that my mom was quite the horseman there when she grew up in Pawnee, out east of the Y. There was a farm there that she grew up on, and I guess she was quite the horseman. So anyway, that passed on to Waki, number 2 daughter of Elizabeth in Hawaii. They're on a big island, Hawaii. And if anybody wants to go visit them, they have they're out of the resort area on the north end. It's just locals, and they have a bunch of little houses there and cabins, and they rent them, but they're very, very reasonable. Anyway, throw that out there. And then let's see, the D5 Hillel is our chef, and so she's in Seattle. So all my kids are in Seattle except for D2, Lael, and D4, Elizabeth, who is in the Big Island, Hawaii.
Those girls have taken over Seattle.
Yeah. Howie is right now, I think he's in Alaska somewhere. He's kind of traveling around, finding his roots. So, one thing before we move on, speaking of Howie, he asked me a couple of months ago, I said, Dad, how did you end up in Alaska? How did we get here? And I told him that story. I guess I just told you guys was one other thing I failed to mention. I mentioned this at George's funeral, is at my dad's funeral in 73, summer of 73. I was really, really not myself because it was unexpected. Dad was only 43. So I think I was hanging around with you, Lance. Maybe were you there, or Jay, or I forget which one. Ricey, I forget. But
I was in the Army at that point.
So I was sleeping better. And so my mom said they're having a prayer meeting. Typically, as we know, in Pawnee, which I love the way we do this. 3 days, everything works out right, get the body back, 3 days, and then the funeral. So they were having a prayer meeting out west, actually out west. I think it was might have been at Sam Young's house. The elders were there, and this one elder, I'm a smaller elder. Oh, good grief, can't think of his name at the moment. Somehow they wanted me to say something, and I was just dumbfounded. And Sam Osborne, that's who it was, Sam Osborne. He came up to me and he said, "Pray." I said, "What?" He said, he got up in my face again and said, "Pray." He said like 3 or 4 times. And I didn't know what that was, but he impacted me. So our family and our tribe, it's just amazing what we have. It's amazing what we have. So I don't know why I went down that road. Okay, what was the next question?
I want to ask you, I've always been impressed with the times that great grandpa EchoHawk lived in and the way that he reached out and took people in. And you and Yvonne really modeled that. But I wonder if you could clear up your relationship with Ted on the legal thing. Is he legally, did you legally adopt Ted, or was it just more of a?
No, for some reason, at that time, I didn't. I don't know why. I think I tried to. There was some pushback from his dad, I guess, or something. No, I did not adopt him.
But you took him in and raised him, and
He's my son.
And he's the better for it. And
let me tell you that story. Can I tell you another story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I got Ted, he just loved me. He was a wonderful kid. I was not a dad. I don't know how to be a dad. And he'd want to call me daddy or dad. I said, I'm not dad, I'm Howard. He wanted to sign their wedding book. Teddy EchoHawk. He said, you're not an EchoHawk, you're a Haugen. I'm not proud of that. That's the way I was. And so we were up at New Married Student Housing, must have been 74, and in Fairbanks. And we were moving to this apartment, and I went into the bathroom. We just moved in. It was cold. It was snow. We were bringing stuff in the apartment, and the toilet was the most horrible thing you could imagine. And I hollered for Yvonne, Yvonne! And Teddy comes running in, and he looks down there and he says, oh, I can do that. And he put his hand down in there, and he comes up and he cleared up the toilet. And I'm going, And I knew I was in trouble with GOD, because this kid, all he did was love me, and I couldn't love him back as a dad. And so because Sam Osborne told me to pray, I really started praying then. So I said, I need to love this kid as a dad. I can't, you got to put it in there because it's not there. I'm trying, but I can't, I won't. And this kid is just loving me. Look what he did. And so I did become a dad. And he's my boy. I don't know why I didn't adopt him now. Maybe on she might be on. I sent her the link to this. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why I did, but he's my son, and I'll get my will. Everybody should have a will. Most people died, I know. He's in my will. I talked to some other cousins of ours a couple years ago, and they didn't have wills. I'm going, what the heck? Jay didn't have a will. Get a will. Make out a will. And that's my advice to everybody. Anyway, next question.
Well, speaking of advice, I'm hoping, some young people in the family will watch the recording at some point. And if you were going to say a word to them, what would that be? But let me kind of set that up a little bit. In 1970, in that era, and so, we've been together in 69 at Stillwater at college, and you're getting ready. Your life to me was adventurous because you were willing to just hitchhike off anywhere and just do anything. I told Mom and Dad, I want to go to Alaska with Howard. He's going to go up there. And they were like, don't be messing around with that Howard. He's not even gonna make it to 20. they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me go. But
blame him.
There was I think you were able to look inside and see some kind of resources that told you, I can do this. And I'd like you to reflect on where you think that came from and what you might, on the basis of that, have some input for young family people.
Okay. Well, my dad my daddy had issues. Like I say, he left at 43, but he was crazy about his kids. He would love us kids. And he taught me traditional ways. And so I remember, let me just say this. I remember one time he took me to see Lucy Tilden out past Debbie's house, out west, down that way. And of course, our tradition is so honorable. You don't visit an elder without bringing a gift. At that time, the gift was a bag of groceries. And so I went to Hermes and I got bread and I got bologna. I don't know what I got, a bag of groceries and cigarettes. And then my daddy took me out there to meet Lucy Tilden. And as we know, she was the last survivor of the walk from Nebraska. And so we were taught this tradition, the honor. You know, just like I read earlier, you know, that Henry Chapman addressed the elders. It was really cool at, was it Jerry? At Jerry's, George's service. When I got there to the Rome chief, you know, I sat down and Debbie came over and we were visiting a little bit. But when it was time to eat, the elders went first, the men went first, the women and the kids. You know, we have such honorable traditions in our tribe and in our family. Like I said, family was the biggest thing that my dad taught me. You know, we would always go visit his brothers, my uncles, everywhere we went, and the house was always open. So you got a lot of memories growing up that way. So my advice to young people is, what was taught us is there's a creator. Love him, know him, find your way in life with his help. Mentor, very, very important. Oh, I wish I had a mentor. Wish I had a mentor.
Well, I've done my best with you, Howard.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wish I had a mentor. But, you know, I mean, speaking of family, now, I was a son of Whitty. So that time that not you and I wasn't going to mention names, that time that one of my favorite cousins woke me up with a steering wheel in his hand, driving down the road, we called Uncle Bruce. We called Uncle Bruce that night. He came out and got us, woke him up. Yeah, man had a job. He was a geophysicist. He came out and got us, brought us home, and I don't remember him beating us up, you know. I don't remember him bawling us out or whatever. He just came, got us. He was a little grumpy because it was late and cold and snowy, whatever. But the reason he did that is because we were his brother's kids, family. Uncle Og has bailed me out. Uncle Elmo bailed me out back in my drinking days. Family. And that wasn't anything special about me at all, but I was Whitty's boy. And that strong family tradition said, yeah, Howard's a little jerk, but I love Whitty, so I'll bail him out. and that's our family. We grew up with those brothers. They were cousins, but they were brothers. They knew each other as brothers. They took care of each other. So family is so strong. But my dad told me, he said, take all the math and science you can take. You got to get educated. You got to get trained. You got to find something that you can make some money. You got to have a backup career. So I guess that's my thing too. One is realize, like we read, that God put us here and do the best we can to know him and know his ways and family and education and go out and take care of your family. Take care of your family. You got kids, take care of your kids. I have amazing kids. I was able to be home every night with the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. I worked at Pump Station 9 in Delta Junction for 30 years. I was home every night. So that had a big influence on my kids. I was there all the time. And like I said, sometimes I have training I've able to take and we go to Anchorage or Fairbanks, and because Delta Junction is 100 miles away from McDonald's or a regular movie theater. You know, it's a little bitty. Yale is bigger than Delta Junction, I think. So I guess acknowledge God and love God and walk with Him and get a mentor, and then you get as much education as you can, and take care of your family. Take care of if you got kids or cousins or whatever you haven't seen in a while, reach out. Let's be a family. This is so great. This campfire you have here is really, really cool. Everybody get together from all over the nation. It's really awesome. So I think that would be my advice is stay strong in family and stay strong in God.
Well, I think that's important to highlight that family really can be a foundation to launch from, and whatever happened in your life to give you those resources, you certainly launched into some adventures. And I think that says something, you know, you were a risk taker in a way that I wasn't. I didn't make
it to Vietnam. I think well.
I went to Missouri, but not.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I do want to say this. Barb and I eventually joined you in Alaska in 1980, went up there to go to college, and got to raise our kids in conjunction with your kids. And so they're close with each other. Anna's staying in good contact with all your girls. And but it was fun to see the kids together and to see your kids growing up. And I just want to tell one story on Lael. She was just a really interesting little girl, always curious, always, you know, up to something, and a lot of questions. And I don't know if people on the call know what a pig is.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I remember this.
When it comes to the pipeline, but I'll try to explain. The pipeline needs to be cleaned out from the inside periodically. So there was this thing called a pig that would get sent down the pipeline and do its thing, cleaning off the barnacles or whatever it did. And you were telling me something about this pig, and I thought that's interesting. And at some point, Lael was saying, "What? Maybe it was another time," but she said, "Daddy, what's a pig? Tell me what is this thing, a pig?" So you went into this technical explanation, describing, you know, very well, I thought, what a pig was. And when you got done, Lael looked at you a little confused and questioning, and she said, yeah, but what's a pig?
Yeah, how to get in there? Yeah, I remember that.
Well,
what about the Alleywax?
Oh no, I don't want to go there. I'm pushing my luck with where I have gone here. So are you open to taking any questions or getting some feedback and comments from people? Was that a yes?
Howard, I have a question for you. Thanks so much for visiting with us tonight and sharing your story with us, the various things that happened. I'm a little curious about your name, Howard, and you know, I presume that you got that from our great-grandfather, but I've never heard an explanation of where that name came from, and I was just curious if you ever heard the story of that name, Howard.
Oh, the name Howard. No, I never have. I don't know.
Now, I guess another question I have is, you and Lance were sort of the founders of the EchoHawk colony there in Alaska. And so we've had various family members living up there. Are there other Pawnees living up there? Did you find other Pawnees and associate with them at all?
I did hear of I'd have to look around. I did hear of a man who worked for the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. And he was in Anchorage. This is, boy, my goodness, this is 30 years ago. I did hear about him, and we actually connected one time for a brief minute. But that Anchorage is, I never went to Anchorage, maybe once every 4 years or something. But, and then I heard about a ghost. I talked to Uncle Hope about this. There was a ghost guy that claimed, actually, he was claiming he was an EchoHawk in Western Alaska. And but those are the only two guys I know of besides our family. Now, right now, Harold has his daughter Adrian's there, and she's going to University of Fairbanks. Then, of course, Hilaire's got, and Ketchikan's got her kids down there. But, that's all I know of Alaska.
This is John. Let me ask you, Howard, about Katie John. Tell us that.
Oh,
Katie.
yeah, I was going to mention that. I forgot about that. Thank you.
Yeah, you met her over in Delta Junction, and you changed Alaska. Tell them about it.
Yes, thank you, John. So, Mentasta Village. When I went to work for the pipeline as a technician in '77, one of the other techs there was Fred John Jr. He was a avionics tech, electronics tech from the Navy, and he's from this remote village, Mentasta. Means shallow lake in Upper Athabascan language. Just on the south side of the Alaska Range, unbelievably beautiful. You've seen it in my Facebook page, you'll see some pictures there. And my kids are all heavily involved. So I don't remember the timeline, but there was an Indian agent. Let me back up. So these people in this village, subsistence, they hunt and they fish. They don't get commodities. They don't have what we have here because we had treaties. We were treated as sovereign nations. In Alaska, they realized that they don't want them to be sovereign nations because they're losing their power, the government. So they let them be corporations, regular corporations. Regular corporations can lose money, they can lose assets, they can lose land, and all that. So, and that's all your arena. But anyway, there was an Indian agent. So because they were subsistence, they would fish right there in that lake. And then in 58, some number way back when, the territorial, or it might have been a state, I guess, at that time, 58, they said, you can't fish her no more. They're way up in the mountains. And so downstream, all of the big Japanese and corporations that fish were complaining that these little native guys were taking too much fish away from them. So they were unable to fish in their backyard like they had been for a time out of mind. So they had to go to Chitna, which is a big day's drive and more dangerous and so forth. And then an Indian agent came through Mentasta. I started going there. I pastored there for 33 years in Mentasta. During that time, we had no suicides, and it was pretty cool. Beautiful country. They really took us in. Katie John adopted Yvonne as her daughter, which means all my kids now have Grandma Katie as their grandma. And an Indian agent, I forget what year it was, came through and told Grandma Katie, said, I think you can beat this in court. You can get your land, you can get the right to fish again subsistently. And so I was told this, and so I called John. I called him right at the NARS headquarters, and his admin broke into his big meeting. He was talking to senators and congressmen and the presidents, and he then answered this phone call from little old cousin Howard in Alaska, and then John put his staff on it. And lo and behold, John, you can articulate this better than I can, but it went to the Supreme Court, right? Went to Supreme Court, and they won. And maybe you could tell us more about what that means for the state of Alaska. Go ahead, John. Pass it off to you.
Well, as Howard said, these Alaska Native people depended on subsistence. You know, they don't have grocery stores and everything. They just go out and hunt and fish, and that's the way they live. And that's the way most of the Alaska Natives up there in Alaska live. 229 villages, and they mainly depend on subsistence. And under the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, these hunting and fishing rights are supposed to be administered by the state of Alaska. And of course, Alaska is basically anti-native, so they didn't pay any attention to subsistence. So we had to get a special law in 1980 recognizing the priority of rural Alaskans to hunt and fish, subsistence rights. And Alaska continued to ignore that, not enforce that. So they were basically shutting down Katie John and her family. So that's when, Howard gave me a call. So we took that to court. And as Howard said, it went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court enforced that federal law that gives priority to Alaska rural residents to hunt and fish over all of the commercial people. And those Alaska Natives still have that right. Of course, all the commercial hunters and fishers are always challenging that every opportunity, but still Alaska Natives continue to win. And whenever they need to eat, they go out and hunt and fish, and that's their right. And it all started there with Howard and Katie John connection, and it's the law in Alaska, and that's the way Alaska Native people subsist and live today, thanks to Howard and his connections with Katie John. Thank you, Howard.
Well, thank you, John and Nara, for taking care of this. I was going to say, then maybe you remember afterwards, the governor, Tony Knowles, Democrat, oil field worker, his native man who was on your board for a while, Will Mayo were working for the Democratic governor at that time, and was following this case. And the governor was getting a lot of pressure from all these fishing fleets, all the industry. And like John was saying, there was a bias against natives getting anything. And so he was underneath a lot of pressure to, in fact, he had $1 million, I think he had, for lawyers to protest, or I'm looking for the right word, to challenge this case. And Will Mayo, who is an Athabasca native from Fairbanks, actually grew up in Tanacross. But anyway, he told the governor, well, if you're going to do this, you have to go and talk to her yourself. So he was able to get the governor of Alaska to go to this remote place and spend the day with Katie John, who talked. I don't think she can even read English. She came out of a time zone. Katie John, what a privilege to get to know her. She hunted, she fished, the governor came and spent the day with her, and she told him all about her history and life and stuff. And he spent the day, went to her fishing camp, Bensonita, which means dry roasted salmon place, and came back to Juneau, capital, and told everybody, said, I'm not fighting this one. This is going to stand. don't mess with this woman. I think it's because John's behind her. But anyway, that has, like John said, that changed Alaska, totally changed Alaska and changed those natives. And they live like 80 years old is nothing for her. They live 89. I've met a man who was 110 years old and still getting around. They live well, they eat well, they are exercise, and it shows up. So anyway, thank you, John, and thank you, North, for handling that. You guys changed the world, Alaska. Thank you.
Your friendship with Katie John changed the world, Howard. Thank you.
So
okay.
That's a big deal in Alaska. Is it not so that there's a Katie John Day?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, state of Alaska has Katie John Day. My kids are on. I don't know what day it is, but yeah, state of Alaska made Katie John Day. When she would speak, I didn't go to any of her meetings, but when she would speak at these big giant, what they call Alaska Federation of Natives. Oh, they come from all over. There's thousands of people. And when she speaks, she'd make everybody get up and clap and get excited. She was quite, they gave her, the University of Alaska gave her honorary doctor of laws degree because what she did. And it's amazing, really great. Anyway, next question.
Anybody have any thoughts or questions?
I don't have a question, but Howard, I want to thank you for recognizing the role that our father, your Uncle Crip, played in teaching family members how to survey. That isn't seldom recognized, but, Dad just loved teaching about surveying and supporting family members and others that he came to know and work with through the years. That just was very touching for you to start off recognizing our father. Very much appreciated. And speaking of the Mayo family, do you remember when I came to Fairbanks in sometime around 2006 or so, and was the guest of Clyde and Kathy Mayo? And you and Yvonne came from Delta Junction, and I didn't know that Harold lived there at the time. And we had this wonderful salmon barbecue. It was just an amazing, amazing evening. And I still have the otter tail that you gave me. Had my daughter lived, I was going to have it made up for her and her dance outfit, but I still have that. So anyway, it was just wonderful to just be embraced not only by the Mayo family, but also that you and Yvonne and Harold came. So it was a very special day indeed. So
one of the moments I remember about your dad, where he came to Pawnee. I forget which time, but he told me, he came up to me and he said, "I'm really glad, Howard, you're surveying." And that was like being knighted by the King of England, So that was really cool. Loved your dad. Oh, and then let me back up here. So in 71, maybe you remember your dad and my dad and your little brother, Tom, came to Alaska, and it wasn't in my area. It was quite a ways away. They went to Glacier Bay National Monument outside of Juneau. I was working in Fairbanks, and I quit my job, and I hitchhiked down to Anchorage, and I flew into Juneau, and I flew in over to Glacier Bay where your dad was working, and Tom and my dad. And so I got to work with your dad for two months. And I got to work with my dad, and I got to be with Tom. Tom and I shared a cabin together, and we really, we're cousins. We really bonded, and he wanted at that time, maybe you remember, he wanted to be a social worker at that moment. But it was beautiful. It was wonderful. Yeah, your dad is just, wow.
I did.
King
I
England.
didn't remember that you were part of the team that he put together there, because it was a U.S. Forest survey that had been tried before, and they gave it up.
He hired
too hard, but he got it done thanks to you and Brother Tom and whoever else.
Oh yeah. He on the 4th of July that year, I think it was 71. Wasn't it 71? I'm not sure.
I don't remember what.
Anyway, he hired a airplane on floats, and we flew over to Hoona, small fishing native village, and that's when I turned professional. So they had on the 4th of July, they had a 1 mile race. Started out in front of the main local beer joint and then went around the square 4 times. And I was in shape. And so I took off running. And that first quarter, those guys ran it like 1 minute. And I was way behind. After the second lap, over half of them were all puking and throwing up and everything. And then anyway, I won. After like 30 people, like 4 was left, and I won the mile race. And I was given $15. Me and Jim Thorpe. So your dad did that for us. You know, it was a wonderful flight, and we got to see wild goats and everything. And oh, it was a beautiful day. Oh, I'll never forget it. It was really wonderful. And then spending all that time with Tom, it was just amazing. So thank you. Your dad is amazing.
Well, it's always been my perception that those brothers that we call our uncles laid some kind of foundation for the generation to come. Your story is an example of what they did in their lives, laying a launch pad for you and for many people, you know, on this call and in the family. And I just think that's very noteworthy and something to be, you know, pointed out and grateful for what our dads did for setting us up for the success and empowering us for, you know, some really significant and important things that have happened in the family.
Well, I wanted to, am I on?
We can hear you, but we can't see you. Oh, your mic just went.
Okay. Is the mic working now?
Yes, the mic's on.
Okay.
Your video's out.
I just wanted to say that Dad teaching everyone the surveying and the gratitude for that. Dad was passing that on because if it had not been for Uppet and taking in Dad and his brothers, I mean, you know, Uppet just, he gave Dad all the benefits that he never would have had. He, you know, he nurtured him, got him in college, just, you know, gave him golf lessons, dance lessons, how to dress, and motivation to be a better person. And that just really stuck with Dad. So those were his brothers, Whitty, Hope, your dad, all of them. And they all, you know, they were all with us as we were growing up. We had Hope, Whitty, Georgette, you know, your dad was already out and about, but that was just Dad passing it on, I think. He had a lot of gratitude for what had been given him. So
it wasn't just Uppet, it was Mama Toots too, that she.
Right, well, that's what I meant, that family. Yeah. But if they had not taken him in, then that would have been a lot different story because he would have struggled greatly. So it was always passing it forward. And it was always, Howard, I remember your mom and dad so vividly when they lived in Farmington and when you were born there. And your mom was so incredibly beautiful. Your Dad, he was just a hoot. He was so darn funny and fun loving, and you had great parents. So, and I love your story. And Lance, I love your part in that too.
Well, you know, Howard and I are the last two standing in that little group of cousins. Earl left early. He died on a Christmas day. I don't know, 10 years ago. Bryce left. Jay left. We're down to now. It's between Howard and I.
Yeah. Well, two good ones. They were all good ones, and of course, we all had experience with all of them. And for us, of course, Steve and Earl and Joe and all of them, all of those kids they just grew up with us. So we love them all. Mm. This has been great. I love hearing this.
Liz, I see you joined us. Did you want to add anything? Welcome from Hawaii.
No, she's New Zealand.
Aloha, everybody. I'm
Zealand.
actually in New Zealand. So kia ora, family. It's good to see everybody. I got my time zones mixed up, so I actually just jumped on. So yeah, so just thinking, I don't know what Dad shared, but hi, Dad. For us, you know, growing up in Alaska, so far away from everybody, and having Uncle Lance and Aunt Barbara there, you know, when we were kids was such a gift. And, you know, like I could get all cry about it, but, you know, just that connection of that we had a family, and those special times, and different people came by and, you know, visited up there in Alaska. And, you know, it's just all those things that kind of marked us kids. You know, I think I remember Uncle John coming up at one point, and I think my little brother jumped into the, that might have been Uncle Larry. I think Uncle John came up, and Uncle Larry came up, and you know, just different people up at Hobe came up quite a few times. And I just, you know, so it's just so amazing for me. And I'm just grateful for our family, and to be a niece and a daughter to everybody on this phone call. So yeah, it's good to see everybody.
It's good to see you. When will you be back in Hawaii?
So my father-in-law passed away really unexpectedly. And so we got New Zealand is completely closed to visitors. And I'm a visitor. My children and my husband are all hold New Zealand passports. But so we got in on a waiver for 3 months. My mother-in-law, we're living with her at the house. So we're just trying to figure out how to best support the family. We're not quite too sure how long that's going to be. Maybe another couple of months. See how she settles, and yeah. So we're just kind of figuring it out. But so we're here for a little while longer, at least.
Well, what part of the country are you in?
We are in the north. My husband is in Tauranga Moana. Naitirangi Nui and Naitirangi are his two hapus on this side, on my father-in-law's side, and that's where he was raised. So I'll show you guys a little bit of a view. This is
it's the North Island.
North Island, and so that's the view from my in-laws' porch, and just down there is like a really giant waterfall. It's a really beautiful place they live at. Yeah, so North Island, probably about 2 hours from Auckland, and like if anybody's ever been here, University of Waikato is in Hamilton, and that's about 45 minutes away.
How close to Rotorua are you?
Rotorua, we're about 30 minutes up a back road. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's been since 2000 that I visited the Maru people, but it was awesome, and I want to come back one day.
Well, if I'm here any longer, everybody will have a place to come.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this.
Well, Howard, thank you for your talk. I'll put it up, and maybe some people will be able to check it out. And I hope so, because it's a good story.
Who are you talking to?
I was just thanking you for your talk, and
Oh, I have one more. I have one more little story I want to share before we leave. Now a good time?
yeah, I'm gonna turn the recording off in a minute when you're done, and then whoever else wants to check in, we'll get back to that. But yeah, go ahead.
So it's really, really good what we're saying tonight, and really, because EchoHawk, what does it mean? Small earth lodges. So our family, our band, came from very tight families, not large earth lodges, but small earth lodges. And Grandpa George up at George, like Mary was saying, was a model for what we have seen in our uncles and our dads and what we see in ourselves, because he did open up his home, his heart to his brothers' kids, raise them as their own. They were all raised together as brothers. And then again, I'm an example of, because they loved each other so much, that even though I was really nothing, but I was Whitty's boy, they really looked out for me. I remember Uncle Brummett, and I was a teenager, and I was embarrassed, actually. I had to share this with you. I'd see him at the Tulsa State Fair, and he'd have a big broad brim hat with a big musty eagle feather out of it, and he had those Apache boots on with the fringes, coming up to his knees, and he was Aunt Mary. And I seen him across the way there one time, and he saw me, and I go, oh boy, he's coming over. And he came over, striding over to me, and he hugged me and was nice to me, and he gave me some money. And I was so embarrassed that I was embarrassed of him, but that's just the way we were brought up. Our uncles took care of the nephews and nieces, and that's the way it was. So I was going to tell you this one last story. So we were in Yale. When I went to Quay, there was a girl there that I just was smitten for, little blonde girl. And so I actually was fortunate. She's way out of my league. I was actually going on a date. We're going to go to Tulsa to go roller skating. I'm in high school. I'm a junior or senior, I forget. And I had an old beater. I didn't have my Keen MGA at that time. I had an old beater, 53 Chevy with skirts. And I had that Dodge, I think, too, old beat up Dodge. But I told my dad about my date, and he said, well, take the Maverick. He had a brand new 1970 red Maverick, Ford Maverick, company car. Now, what dad would give his son a night out in the company car? Well, sure enough, I just started wearing glasses, and I didn't think it was cool. And I was with the girl of my dreams, and my heart was racing. And we were leaving Yale on 51 to Tulsa, and halfway there was this gas station, and she said, "It's open, Dr. Pepper." So I immediately just whipped in right in front of an oncoming car, and it hit right over the front right wheel of my daddy's brand new company car, spun us around. We're twirling around. I think we did the 360 and another one in the ditch. The windshield came out. Kay's on the floor crying, blood. The ambulance came, took her away. The cops came. The tow truck came. And it's about 11 o'clock. And here in Oklahoma, it gets really dark at night with no one. So I had to call Uncle Whitty. It must have been like 1969, 68. Woke him up. It was, at that time, we were in Yale, Pawnee, out east of the Y. And so he got out of bed, went to the front room where the phone was, hanging on the wall with the cord. He answered the phone, said hello, and I said, "Daddy." I wrecked a car. Not knowing what to expect. I'd never seen my dad get fussy. Let me take a break there. I was taking flying lessons. Uncle Crip inspired me. I was taking flying lessons in when it was 70, maybe 60, something. Anyway, I went to Guthrie one night. For your checkout flights, you have to do the night flight. I went to Guthrie, went to my instructor, did some touch and goes, came back to Stillwater, and that following weekend I was at with my dad. And at that time, Guthrie was all black. Stillwater were in the same AA conference, football, stuff like that. And we'd play them, and they were all wonderful black guys, big athletes. And so I went to Guthrie, the touch and go, came back. And I told my daddy that weekend, Daddy, I went to Guthrie last Friday night. I had my first night flight, and I never saw my dad get mad, but he got mad. He got very, very angry. He's cussing. That's a blankety blank good way to get killed. And he's kicking dirt, walking over outside of your house in the yard. And he's kicking dirt, and he kept cussing and going, that's a good way to get killed. And I'm going, I had an instructor. I don't care. That's a blankety blank good way to get killed. And he's kicking dirt. And then finally we communicated. And I said, Daddy, I was in an airplane. Oh, I thought you said knife fight, like a knife fight, sharp knives. And that's a blankety blank good way to get killed. He didn't care if I had an instructor over there with fighting these black guys in Guthrie. So that's my dad. So the story I was going to say, though, in Yale, so I was on this date and with this girl, Kay, and I had to call him. And when I said I wrecked the car, it was dead air for 5 lifetimes. And then he said, anybody get hurt? Just like that, nice and quiet. Calm. I said, well, yeah, okay, she's ambulance, but stitches, but she'll be fine. She'll be okay. Then the phone again went dead for 10 lifetimes. And then he said, can you get home? I said, oh, yes, sir, I can get home. You don't have to come get me. Yes, sir, I can get home. I'll make it home. I walked all night long, got home. But my point is, and I've shared this story. In fact, I shared it at George's funeral. Who does that? I don't think I would have done that if my son had wrecked a car, my company car, and I'm probably going to lose my job. Maybe liable, I have to pay for the whole deal. And he only asked me if anybody got hurt, and can I come home? And so what I'm saying is that parents and dads especially give their kids either a cage or wings. And I remember as I finished up my little talk here, after I went to Alaska that time, then the next year I wanted to hitchhike. They say Daddy, my mother, Helen, Holly, we're in a pickup, and they took me to Bill's Corner. And then I think that might have been, no, it's the first time I went to yeah, it was before you guys got married. It was the first time I went to Albuquerque, and then I went on, and I went to Uncle Johnny's house in Los Angeles, and they treated me like a long lost son. Treated me so good. I was so amazed. There was oranges on trees, and it was sunny and nice and warm and everything. And I got to meet the whole gang. Tom and Charlie was just a little kid then. And Steve, hung out with Steve, went partying with Steve, met one of Fred's girlfriends, and had a great time. And then I went on up to Alaska. So, but my point is my dad gave me wings. He gave me wings. And and so Howie asked me, he said, how come you're up there, Dad? Well, how did all this happen? And I wasn't taught this, but I was taught it not by chapter and verse, but by real. My dad was a man of honor. He honored his elders, his father, his brothers, and I really like the way Bobby. I'll give you kudos. I really like the way Bobby comes to the room. He shakes hands with everybody, and he's been taught the same way from his dad, a way of honor. And so, so we're all family here tonight. And I was going to say, it's, as everybody knows, it's couldn't have had a better mom for my kids. His mom was amazing. She gave them wings. You know, they've been all over the world, my kids. And Yvonne was right there, you know, sending them off to do all these amazing things. Abby was in Portugal when she got out of high school. Howie was in China, and Colleen was in Moscow when she was 16. And they've all been able to go all over the place. Hillel was backpacking in India. And so that's what I wanted to do as a dad, is get my kids wings, like my dad gave me. Wanted them educated. I told them, I said, college is on your own. You're going to have to make it one way or the other. But I'm going to give you a childhood, like an envious childhood. So that's what they did. And so it's a sad story about Yvonne. We are divorced, but I treated her as best I could, financially and monetarily and everything. And so what I said, all that said, I got divorced, and then I just got divorced again. Let me tell you, this is family, right? Who's all on here? Let me see if I'm going to tell everybody this here.
Well, Howard, the recording is on. Do you want me to?
Oh, okay. I don't care. So